Hey everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to my series of Ascendants. Today we will talk about the Virgo Ascendant. What is the Virgo Ascendant? If you do not know what your Ascendant is, uh, please click on the link mentioned in the description of this video and find out what your Ascendant is. What you need is your time of birth, date of birth, and your place of birth. Do not confuse this with your zodiac signs or your sun signs. You could be born in August and September, and you think that you are a Virgo, but this is Vedic astrology. You could be born in December, you could be born in January, and you could still be a Virgo ascendant. And you could be born in September and may not be a Virgo ascendant. So find out what your rising sign is, what your Lagna is, and what your ascendant is. They're all the same thing. They're just different names for the same thing. Indians call the ascendant or the rising sign as Lagna or Lagna. Okay, this is not your sun sign. Okay, Vedic astrology analyzes all the planets and then gives you an accurate prediction on your charts, not just based on the sun. Okay, so once you figure out what your ascendant sign is, and if number 6 falls in the first house, just like this, that means you are a Virgo ascendant. Okay, so what are the traits of the Virgo ascendant? So to understand the traits of Virgo ascendant, we need to look at their first house and their 10th house very carefully. And why is that? Because their 10th house is ruled by Gemini and their first house obviously is ruled by Virgo. What is the connection between that? Okay, so the connection is both these houses, the first house and the 10th house, is ruled by Mercury. So Mercury becomes extremely important for the Virgo rising or the Virgo ascendant people. And to understand their personality, because first house indicates their personality, their physical body, their intelligence. And to understand that, we need to know a little bit about Mercury. So what is Mercury? So Mercury is a planet that signifies communication. It signifies intelligence because the Sanskrit name for Mercury is Buddh, and Buddh translates to Buddhi, and Buddhi means nothing but intelligence. Okay, which makes the Mercury lordship very intelligent, which means Geminis and Virgos both are known as the most intelligent signs, right? And since they're intelligent, they're extremely analytic. So they're known for how analytic they are. So they analyze pretty much everything in life. They analyze other people, they analyze themselves. Okay, and that's what an intelligent person does. An intelligent person doesn't react with emotions and instincts immediately. I'm not saying that they're not emotional. I'm saying they use the brains first for any situation, any difficult situation, or any situation that needs decision making. Virgo ascendants will be very intelligent and analytical, and they will deal with that situation in their lives way, way more logically than most other signs, especially the fire signs like Aries and Leo. Since Aries and Leo are fire signs, even Sagittarius to some extent, Sagi is also a fire sign. These since the element is fire, the tattva is fire, they could react to certain situation with with instinctive anger or sudden emotions. But Virgo ascendants will not do that. Okay, Virgo ascendants will be calculative. Virgo is also an earth sign, guys, remember. Okay, so they're a grounded sign. So they're calculatives. They're even more analytical than the Gemini ascendants, because Gemini, the element is air. So Geminis could be slightly less calculating than the Virgo ascendants. So the Virgo ascendants are the masters of analysis. Okay, so what jobs suit them is to do with analysis. So they could make fantastic bankers. They could be great, great with numbers. Anything to do with analyzing data, analyzing money, the stock exchange. Like for example, Rakesh Junjunwala, right? For the Western audience that doesn't know who's Rakesh Junjunwala, he's, I think, in the first 40 richest men in India, and trust me, that means a lot of money. His assets are in billions, okay, a few billions, billions of dollars, and he's a very very successful stock market bull, right? He started investing with a tiny amount in the 80s, and now he's worth billions. And he's accomplished all of that just with his analysis skills. He started with a small amount, and then he's multiplied that, and then he's again analyzed the stock market, and then multiplied that, and now he's a billionaire. Okay, something like Warren Buffett. Okay, although Warren Buffett isn't a Virgo ascendant, but Rakesh Junjunwala is a classic example of a Virgo ascendant person, especially when it comes to the analytic skills that he has for the stock exchange. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about it when we are going to the second and the fifth house. Okay, that indicates gains through anything that is with speculation. So the stock exchange, the industry of investing into the stock market, is seen from the fifth house, where you can, where even the film industry sits in, because no one knows how much the film will make. It's just like pretty much similar to investing into the stock market, right? Especially if you're buying equities, you don't really know if what happens after 6 months, whether if there's a natural disaster, you could lose half your money. Okay, similarly, if you put in a certain amount to make a film, you don't really know if the film is going to do well, no matter if you have the best stars, and everyone knows you could have the most fantastic star cast, but the film could just completely bomb in the box office, right? And the producers could lose a lot of money. So it is kind of seen from the same fifth house, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we are covering the fifth house. But for now, let's concentrate on their personality and on their 10th house, because we are looking at Gemini and Virgo together, since Mercury has the lordship of these two houses. Okay, so they're not just analytical about their finances, their career. They're also very calculative about what they're eating, their diets. You will rarely see Virgo ascendants eat stuff which is unhealthy. Although Venus is sitting in their second house, but Venus, the sign of Libra, sits there, which makes it balanced. So if they have a diet, it's usually a balanced diet. You will very rarely see a very overweight Virgo ascendant. Most Virgo ascendants are very very health conscious. They look after their bodies, and again, like I said, they're one of the most intelligent signs. So intelligent people usually take care of their body, because they understand that they can have all the money, they can have all the success, but all of that is not worth it if you are not healthy, isn't it? So Virgo ascendants are very much aware of this, and they really look after their bodies, right? Now let's look at their second house. So the second house is ruled by Venus, which is Libra, and also their ninth house is ruled by Venus, which is Taurus. So What is the second house? The second house is their family. Second house is the house of their accumulated wealth, right? And since Libra signifies business and balance, they could be from a business family. Their family could have ancestral business going on for them, all right? Their family could be into some kind of a partnership business. They could partner with their family to do some kind of business because Venus, Libra signifies all of that. And since Venus rules their ninth house and Taurus sits there, Taurus is also the sign of accumulated wealth, which means Venus becomes the most yogakark planet for the Virgo ascendants. And placement of Venus in their charts is of primary importance because Venus rules their ninth house of principles, their long distance travels, their gurus, their higher education. And since Taurus sits in their ninth house, their accumulated wealth is also governed by Venus because Taurus is the natural significator of the second house. And that natural significator of the second house is now in the ninth house of principles. All right. So if the Venus is exalted, let's consider if the Venus goes to Pisces, which means it's just fantastic. It goes to the house of the partner, their spouse, which means if they start a business or if they're doing something with their partners, and you will see Virgo ascendants will be very happy to partner with their wives for a business or their husbands to get into the same business, or if they're doing something, or if they could be in the same field if they're in the job, and they could be doing something together. They could be in the same team and working together. Okay, and that is supposed to give them fantastic results because that means the ninth house of the ninth house energy and the second house energy, Taurus energy and the Libra energy is all getting exalted in the seventh house because Venus exalts in their seventh house of their spouse or their partnership, business partnership, right? Now let's look at their third house. Their third house is Scorpio, right? And their eighth house is Aries. We will look at these two houses together because, again, like Venus and Mercury, Mars also has the lordship of two different signs, which is Scorpio and Aries. So, because Mars has the lordship of the eighth house and the third house, Mars itself is known as a very malefic planet, right? Like Saturn, Mars, Rahu, Ketu, Sun. These are known as malefic planets. But in this particular chart, for Virgo ascendants, Mars becomes extremely malefic for these people. Okay, but do not get scared, But Mars periods, they should be, Virgo ascendants should be slightly careful of the Mars periods in their life or their dashas. When I say periods, these are dashas, time periods of their lives. Why? Because Aries rules their eighth house. And eighth house is the house of sudden ups and sudden downs. And Mars is a very fiery planet. Mars is a very aggressive planet. And that's not a very good enemy to have, for Mercury. Because the eighth house energy with Aries in there could cause could cause an accident. All right, sudden changes, and that is why the eighth house, any accident, anything that happens all of a sudden, is seen from the eighth house, and it is not always negative because eighth house is demonized a little bit by the astrologers because eighth house can cause a lot of trouble for people. But even lotteries are seen from the eighth house, which means sudden great things. Deaths are seen from the eighth house. Inheritance, to some extent, is seen from the eighth house. Why? Because you can get inheritance only after the death of someone, right? It's like a far uncle of yours dies, and you figure out that in the will that uncle has written like a lot of money for you. Sudden events. Okay, a lottery is a sudden event. So is an accident. An accident is also a sudden event. And why I'm saying accidents here is because Mars um, is a significator of accidents. Okay, so Virgo ascendants need to be a little careful about, whenever they are having their time periods or mahadashas of Mars. Okay, and since they have the Scorpion energy in their third house, and the third house is of their younger siblings. Usually, the relationship with their younger siblings isn't very great because um, the Virgo ascendants could at times be very harsh with their younger siblings. Why harsh? Because they are very analytic people. What they probably want to do is good for their younger siblings. The younger siblings might be doing something which is self-destructive, and the Virgo ascendants will say, "Hey, you know what? Don't do that." Okay, and that could cause some kind of a problem with their younger siblings. But usually, their relationship with the younger siblings aren't great. Okay. Now the third house also has the Gemini energy because third house is the natural significator of where Gemini sits. Okay, and since Gemini goes to their 10th house and is the significator of the third house, so there's, if you look at the connection between the third house and the 10th house, so the Scorpio energy is secretive energy. All right, they're about deep emotions, and and Gemini and the third house also signifies writing, communication at any form. Like second house is also communication. Second house is more of your food intake, your throat area. Okay, but third house is communication. It could be with your hands. It could be with your what you say. It could be any kind of It could be the media industry from the third house. Okay, so they could write. If they write, they could, if they are poets or if they are into writing, they could write about something very deep, like, they could be writers of mystery novel. Okay, with emotions, like it could be a deep dark love story which also has some kind of a suspense, because eighth house is because the eighth house energy of Scorpion is coming to the third house of communication. Okay, and that could mean that they could write about anything that is secretive. Okay, a suspense novel, or writers who would write about anything that is suspense. Okay, now let's look at their fourth house. So fourth house and the seventh house needs to be looked at together because Jupiter rules both of them. Okay, and we'll also look at Cancer because Cancer is the original significator of the fourth house, and we'll also look at the 12th house because Pisces is the significator of the 12th house. So let's understand Jupiter a little bit in their chart. So Jupiter, although looks like a benefic planet here because it is the ruler of the fourth and the seventh, right? But actually Jupiter isn't a benefic planet for Virgo Ascendant. Although Jupiter is well known to be the most benefic planet in astrology, in Vedic astrology, in Jyotish Shastras, but Jupiter here becomes quite a functional malefic here. The reason is because Jupiter and Mercury don't get along, and Virgo ascendants and Mercury hasn't given Jupiter the lordship of any house that would make it a benefic. So although Jupiter being a natural benefic becomes a functional malefic for the Virgo ascendants. Okay, which means things at home, for example, the fourth house where Sagittarius sits. Firstly, the fourth house is the significator of the mother, of their own home, their comfort zone, okay, their emotions. And the Sagittarius is a fiery sign. It's a fire sign, although it's the Jupiter fire sign. Okay, which means it indicates gurus, and not a normal guru, a guru with great wisdom. A guru means a teacher with great wisdom. Okay, a very strict, a very strict teacher, not a teacher like Venus, because Venus also signifies teacher, but the teacher or the guru that Jupiter signifies is a very strict, disciplined teacher. So it doesn't take everyone in as the students. So Jupiter would first check if you are worthy of being his student or not. Okay, so they could learn things from their mothers. Their mother could be extremely principles oriented, since uh, Jupiter and Sagittarius is in their fourth house. And also, the 11th house needs to be looked at, because Cancer sits there. And since the moon energy of Cancer is in the 11th house of networking, friends, the outer world, um, their mothers could be very social. Their mothers could be a part of increasing their network and social circle. Okay, they could hang out with their mothers and their group of friends all together. Okay, I've seen this in a few charts where they're extremely friendly with their mothers, and they treat their mothers, and the mother is hanging out with them and their friends in the same social circle. So those are the Virgo ascendants. Okay, and now if we look at their seventh house of spouse, their husbands um, and their wives, the 12th house energy comes in, which kind of balances their analytic skills, because again these people are very analytic, and the 12th house and the sign of Pisces signifies being spiritual. Okay, the spiritual realm, the subconscious mind, which has nothing to do with being analytic. It has nothing to do with numbers. It has nothing to do with logic. Okay, um, so they kind of find these people, the spiritual people, the people who are just selflessly doing things for others. Because remember, Virgos aren't the selfless people. I'm not saying they're self-centered, but you need to understand Virgos. If you have a Virgo friend, firstly they are fantastic friends. Why? Because the 11th house is Cancer, which means they do have their motherly tendency towards their friends, and their friend circle could mean their life. Okay, Virgos would be very, very upset if they have lost their good friend, or they've had a fight with their good friend. These are those people, because they're emotionally attached to them. Okay, but they might be very calculative in how they're dealing with them. And the reason why I'm saying that they make the best friends, because they are the masters of analysis. And if you ever need advice, and you know that your friend is a Virgo ascendant, these are the people that you should call for advice, because they will hear you out, and then they will analyze the situation. And I'm talking about if you're in crossroads, like if you're having some major problems in your relationship, and you are considering whether you should go walk this way, or you should continue the relationship, or whatever your situation in life is. Probably you lost a job, or you're looking for a job, whatever it is. Okay, I'm talking about difficult situations, and you have a friend who's a Virgo ascendant, and you call these people. They will give you the best advice, which will be beneficial for you, because they are masters of analysis. They will analyze your situation. They'll say, okay, what is your financial situation? What is your emotional, see how attached you are. They will understand all those things first from you, and then tell you, hey, you know what, I think right now this is what you should do. Okay, so that is the reason I am saying that Virgos make very, very good friends. Okay, and since this is how logical and analytic they are about how they approach certain things, they are attracted to the Pisces energy. and their spouses may not be very analytical and logical. Pisces would be about, oh, they could be into healing. They could be yoga teachers. They could be doctors who probably do, if they see someone who cannot afford their treatment, these are the doctors who will say, okay, no problem, I will not charge you anything. There are doctors like that, right? They could have something to do with hospitals, monasteries. They could be very solitary people, their partners. Okay. So the Pisces energy kind of governs their seventh house. And those are the people that they are attracted to. Right. Now let's look at their fifth house and their sixth house. Why do we look at these two houses together? Because Saturn rules these two houses. Okay. And Saturn becomes a very beneficial planet for them. It becomes a yoga karaka planet, right? Interesting. Why? Because Saturn is like the most feared planet, right? Saturn and Rahu. Saturn is like, how can Saturn be beneficial? Simple, because Saturn has the lordship of the fifth house. And I will explain this later in another video. So stay tuned. Why a planet, how a malefic planet becomes a benefic planet. So for Virgos, Saturn becomes a benefic planet because it is the lord of the fifth house. And any planet that is having the lordship of the fifth house becomes a beneficial, no matter it has the joint lordship of the 6th, 8th, 12th, 2nd, 7th, 11th, 3rd. But if one of the lordship is the 5th, that means it's a beneficial. That's a simple rule. Okay. So since Capricorn sits in their 5th house, right? Again, the 5th house energy and the Capricorn energy doesn't really match, does it? Because what is 5th house? The original place for Leo, which is ruled by Sun. And what sits there? Saturn, Capricorn. Discipline, action, structure with creativity, entertainment. Can you be disciplined in the way you entertain? Doesn't make sense, right? It does make sense for the Virgo Ascendants. And, it's very interesting why Virgo Ascendant, why Mercury has chosen, okay, let me put Saturn, Capricorn, the most structured and the discipline, the most organized, patient sign for the 5th house of entertainment, 5th house of intelligence, 5th house of education, 5th house of children, 5th house of creativity. Because if you look at Saturn, Saturn exalts in Libra, which means the 5th lord is getting exalted in the 2nd house. And what is their 2nd house? Their 2nd house is the house of their accumulated wealth, which is where Taurus is the original significator of. Okay, which is what makes them these very, very analytic people. So the top stockbrokers, for example, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, 5th house is the house of speculation. And I explained this some time ago in this same video, that the similarity between the movies and the stock market. Anything that you put in your money and you don't know how much return you'll get, that is what it means, the 5th house. And Saturn, if you are disciplined about the way you, if you're analytic, structured, disciplined in the stock exchange. Okay, so what do you need in the stock exchange? You need to be analytic, you need to be disciplined, you need to be structured, and the most important thing is you need to have patience if you want to make money in anything that has to do with speculation. And all that is offered in the 5th house for the Virgo Ascendants. Okay, and that is because of Saturn. So I hope now you understand why, and why Capricorn has the lordship of the 5th house. Similarly, their 6th house is the house of the enemy. 6th house is where the Aquarius energy comes in, which is, the Aquarius is also the energy of gains. Aquarius is also signified by large organizations. And since Mercury is also the significator of communication, so these people could be also into business and consulting. You will find a lot of Virgo ascendants who are into consulting, or they work for a company that is into consulting. They could work for a company that is into events, organizing events, because it needs communication, analytics, intelligence. Okay, marketing companies, which needs communication, sales, so they could be associated, because the sixth house is also about your daily job, your daily routine. And that is why jobs, your career may not be seen from there, but if you have a job, job is also a career. So a lot of people look at the sixth house, because sixth house is your daily life. Okay, you have the 10th house, and then you have the sixth house. So we look at these two houses to see where the person is going to work. And if Aquarius sits in your sixth house, then your daily workplace becomes a large organization, because Aquarius is also a significator of a large organization. Okay, so that was about the fifth and sixth house. We've covered the seventh, eighth, and ninth. We've also covered the 10th house. 11th house we have covered. It's Cancer. Cancer signifies the home, the mother. We have spoken about the mother being social, and the mother also having a lot of principles. Now let's look at their 12th house. Their 12th house is very interesting, because Leo sits there. Leo is the significator of their father, because Sun is the lord of Leo. Okay, so their father, in quite a few cases I have seen, is very, very religious. I know some. I think I know a couple of Virgo ascendant where the father is actually a preacher or a pastor. Okay, and the sun is in Leo in both the cases. So the sun is well placed. The sun is sitting in the 12th house. All right. In other cases, I have seen where the sun is not very well placed. Their father, they could be very distant from their father. Their father could be working in a different. They could be either physically apart, or they could have left them as well. Okay, so this is when sun is not well placed. All right, but usually their father will have something to do with spirituality, to do with hospitals, to do with social organizations, NGOs, monasteries, the other realm, right? So that's about it. And since Leo rules their 12th house, it kind of lights up the 12th house. So their subconscious mind could be very, very lit up. They could also have great intuitions. Okay, so that was my analysis of the Virgo ascendant. And if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button. And if you are interested in more knowledge about Vedic astrology, stay tuned and hit the bell icon so that you can get the updates. And if you want a consultation and you want to talk to me, go to my website. That's www.swamisaptaparni.com. And thank you so much for your time. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.